What's going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Dan and Stevie P. What's happening, Dan?
What's up, Steve? What's up, listeners?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Kev is not going to be with us again tonight. He is having some medical issues that he needs to have taken care of. So we wish him the best, and we hope a speedy recovery for Kevin. You guys in the listener leagues and, anywhere else can hit Kev up and, tell him you hope he feels better. So we are going to be doing some more Chutes and Ladders today. We're going to get into the news, do all that stuff. But first, we are going to do our intro. fourthandinchesff.com is our website. You can get that on the number 4, THNINCHESFF.com. Go there. We have all kinds of stuff. We have ranks, all of our cheat codes on there, strength of schedule, articles, blogs, player profiles, VIP access will give you the decision maker and the cheat codes. Those are two awesome tools to help you in your drafts. And coming soon, week 1 will be the DFS. You guys are really going to enjoy that. We are going to break down if you guys are into playing FanDuel and DraftKings, and we're going to do Yahoo also. We are going to break those down and, tell you what player values we like, matchups that we love, cornerback, wide receiver matchups we love, things that are going to help you to pick a dominant, team on your FanDuel to help you win some money, which is a big deal. So definitely go check that out. And like I said, you can check that out at fourthandinchesff.com. That's the number 4, THNINCHESFF.com.
And we're still doing the VIP promotion, right, for our listeners that help promote us, and then we give them the access to the site.
Yeah, definitely. So if you guys, anybody who is a listener on the listener leagues, you can go on. And we're going to actually open this up for everyone, all of our listeners. If you go on your Facebook page, your Twitter, Instagram, whatever it is you use on a normal basis, take a picture of you, giving us a 5-star rating and review on, whatever platform you use to listen to our podcast. If you don't have Apple Podcasts to leave the 5-star review, you can actually just take a picture of the podcast itself on whatever platform you use and post that to your social media. And then also give us a shout out on your social media saying how we helped you, in your drafts, or, you like the information that we give, or however you want to do it. And we will grant you VIP access. So you'll do that. You'll send us the picture at Stevie P, STEVIEP 1109 at 4thandinchesff.com. Same as the website, and it'll get to me. I will see those pictures, and I will, grant you access to the website. So,
one last thing, Steve. You can also leave reviews on Google too. We're slowly working our way up the Google listings. We are a new website, so organically we're starting at the bottom, but with everybody listening and all your support, we're definitely working our way up, and the progress has been incredible for us over the first, month or two that we've been really pushing here. But just type in our website address and it'll come right up to Google. You'll see our Google page, and you can leave reviews right on that as well. Right now, I think there's only a couple of reviews because people don't really know about the Google stuff. So we're going to start pushing that a little bit because that'll help us start to move up in the organic listings in Google. So just type in our website into Google and you'll see that, and you can leave a review right on that as well.
Definitely. So we are going to get into the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The Miami Herald's Barry Jackson mentioned Kenyon Drake and Kenny Stills as possible trade bait in a potential deal for unsigned Texans franchise player Jadeveon Clowney. That is definitely news, because if Kenyon Drake goes over there, woo! I am going to be super happy in every league I have Kenyon Drake.
If anybody goes over there, I'm definitely looking to put him, because we know what that offense is going to be capable of. So I'm very curious to see what their next move is.
Exactly. The Athletics' Ben Standig reports that Redskins want to trade contract year Josh Doxson. Nobody wants him. Pewter reports Trevor Sikkema left Bucks 6th-round rookie wide receiver Scott Miller off the Bucks' final 53-man roster. Not surprising. Coach Kyle Shanahan was uncertain if Jalen Hurd back will be ready for Week 1 against the Bucks. Yeah, from what I'm hearing, I don't think he's going to be ready. He's just slowly progressing to get back on the field, and he hasn't touched the field yet, so I don't think he will be ready, but we'll see. Kyle Shanahan said it's highly unlikely Trent Taylor foot will be ready for Week 1. Yeah, he had a broken foot, or a fractured foot, so I don't know if that's going to work out. Pewter reports Trevor Sikkema expects Dari I'm going to screw this name up, but it's Ogung Bowale. I'm pretty sure that's the way you pronounce it, but we'll figure that out later. To open the year as the Bucks' third down back, and I picked him up everywhere because I want the back in that offense. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reports Jason Pierre-Paul's neck NFI has been cleared to resume rehab activities. That's a big deal because Jason Pierre-Paul is a beast. Jerick McKinnon returned to 49ers practice on Tuesday. Patriots release wide receiver Maurice Harris with an injury settlement, which was a little bit surprising because he's been playing pretty well in the preseason. Lions release running back Zach Zenner. Kind of knew that. Seahawks haven't ruled out DK Metcalf's knee scope out for Week 1. So they haven't ruled him out just yet. Ezekiel Ansah shoulder and groin practice for the first time as a Seahawk on Tuesday, which is another big deal because he's a great pass rusher. Speaking Tuesday, Redskins coach Jay Gruden said Josh Doxson is not a lock for the team's 53-man roster. See, this is the kind of stupid stuff that I read on here that just makes no sense. So you just told the world, right, that he's not going to make the 53-man roster, but you want to trade him. That's literally like saying to someone, hey, I'm going to throw this in the trash, but you want to buy it first?
Exactly what it's like saying.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is what it is. Anyway, the Houston Chronicle reports the Dolphins are very interested in trading unsigned Texans franchise player Jadeveon Clowney. Yep, we already heard that. Ian Rappaport reports Deshaun Jackson suffered a broken left ring finger on Tuesday's practice, but is expected to be ready for Week 1. Speaking Tuesday, Texans coach Bill O'Brien said that he is not hopeful Kiki Cutie's ankle will be ready for Week 1. Yeah, I kind of assumed he wouldn't be, but we'll see what happens. Speaking Tuesday, Panthers coach Ron Rivera said the team is not concerned about Cam Newton's foot status for Week 1. Dolphins release defensive tackle Akeem Spence. He's like 800 years old. Retired tight end Rob Gronkowski didn't rule out returning to the NFL this season.
I read that earlier. I had to giggle at that one. Like he didn't say he said he'll see how he feels in like 6 months. I read a little bit of the story, but he's like, I guess we'll see how it's in 6 months. I guarantee you, if the Patriots, well, I'm not gonna say when the Patriots make the playoffs, this dude will be in a Patriots uniform.
I think so too. I really do. Gronk is just
he didn't want to go through the grind of the 16. He wants to be there. Yeah.
He's so big, dude. It's so easy to just injure that dude. He's like a tower getting, and everybody chops at his legs, like everyone. And then when they gang tackle him, they like land on his ass because he's just so big.
You can only tackle him by chopping at his legs. You
literally have to take him down like a tree. Yeah, it's crazy, man. This is another report. So this was also reported today. Reported yesterday. Today is Tuesday. So reported on Monday, Kiki Cutie ankle returned to practice Monday. We just heard it 2 seconds ago that Bill O'Brien said he's not going to play in Week 1.
Questionable for Week 1, but who knows? I guess we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so the Athletics' Jay Howe reports Patriots center and David Andrews' season is in jeopardy after being hospitalized with blood clots in his lungs. On a more serious note, I am not a Patriots fan. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. I love the Bills, but you never want something like this to happen to an NFL player. I mean, Russell Okung is actually diagnosed with something very similar. this is a very serious health issue, and I hope he has a speedy recovery. And we pray for his speedy recovery. And this, that's something serious. You don't want to mess around with that. Dante Pettis said he's battling a minor groin injury. Dante Pettis has really been falling, dude. He's been dropping like a sack of rocks. He literally was going in the late 5th, early 6th, and now he's back end of the 9th. It's crazy how much he's dropping. Let's see. The Athletics' Jay Morrison believes AJ Green returning for week 3 is the best case scenario. So anybody who drafted AJ Green, it doesn't sound like he's coming back anytime soon.
Week 5, week 6.
Yeah. Cowboys coach Jason Garrett said Amari Cooper's foot is on schedule to play in week 1, which is fantastic news. This one I chuckled at when I read this. Percy Harvin announced he's returning from retirement on Monday.
To where? Who wants the guy? He played for 6 different teams in a year. Nobody wants him.
Oh my God, Percy, stay retired, bro. Stay retired. We don't need the migraine. All right, so Carlos Hyde worked exclusively with the backups at Chiefs camp Monday. We've been saying this for about a week now. Carlos Hyde gonna get cut. It is what it is. Saints activated defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, Achilles from the active PUP list. NFL Media's Ian Rappaport reports David Moore's shoulder will not go into injured reserve, which actually was surprising. I thought, after hearing about him getting hurt, I thought he was going to be put on IR, but they're not doing it. So Noah Fant returned to practice with the ankle. Last week he got hurt in the game. He returned to practice. Anthony Miller returned to practice on Monday. Paris Campbell's hamstring returned to Colts practice on Monday. That's a big deal. And I believe Odell Beckham resumed practicing on Monday. That's huge. What else have we got? All right, I think this is the last piece of news. Speaking Monday, Redskins coach Jay Gruden said he seriously doubts that Redskins will trade holdout left tackle Trent Williams. So that's basically it. Mike Evans also returned to practice on Monday.
I think a lot of these guys just are, trying to. They know the season is where we at now, 9 days away. They're trying to rest their bodies. They've been through the brutal training camps and 2-a-days and whatnot. So they're just they might accident. I tweaked a hamstring. I gotta go see the doctor for a couple of days.
Exactly.
Lay off it from having to do anything. But
Exactly. Yeah, so Ezekiel Elliott says he wants to be a Cowboy for the rest of his life. Kenyon Drake returned to practice on Monday. Sterling Shepard, they're saying he's going to be good for week 1. And then definitely the last piece of news, because this is on Sunday, but we got Patriots activated Josh Gordon from the NFI list. So he was allowed to return from the league, but he had not been activated by the Patriots until Monday. Now he is active, can play and practice and all that stuff, with the Patriots, and it looks like he's doing that. So that's a big deal. That gives me a whole lot more confidence in anyone who drafted, Gordon, and you needed that to happen for him to be eligible to play.
This dude misses a lot of time on the field, but he looks like he does nothing but work out when he is off the field.
Dude,
it's unbelievable.
Really
he stays in ridiculous shape. Every time you see him, he's a physical specimen, and he's got all the talent. So
yeah,
we're definitely
really is.
Yeah, we'll touch on him a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Is there any major piece of news you want to talk about, Dan?
No, I'll just bring up for 2 seconds that I'd like to hear about the Jarrett McKinnon, only for my own personal satisfaction that, I have him in our league as a keeper. I traded Kev, a swap for him. So I'd like to hear that Jarrett McKinnon, and I think they still said he's doubtful for week 1, but, when he got hurt a few weeks back, they were saying, this could be an extended injury, and now it looks like it's progressing along better than what they're hoping for. So it's good news. I mean, with that backfield, Brady looks awesome. He looks awesome. I mean, you know what? I mean, Coleman looks good. It's just, we've been preaching this for months now, and it is, even though it's only preseason, it is panning out to look like it's going to be a running machine of an offense. So anybody that is drafted, don't be afraid of McKinnon. He's going to be in late, 15, 16. But any of these three running backs, if you can get your hands on them, Coleman's going early, but don't be afraid to get Breda, because these guys are going to get touches and they're going to get some points here.
Yeah, I think people just forget how great Jerick McKinnon was with the Vikings the year before he got traded went to the 49ers on a free agent deal of $10 million. They paid him a lot of money to come over there, and he is a very good pass-catching back, one of the best in the league. And Kyle Shanahan specifically went and got him because he really liked what he would be able to do in this offense. So if he can find a way to stay healthy, he could be a weapon that Kyle Shanahan uses, and I want Kyle Shanahan weapons, period. Really, for the other news, there's not too much here that I really want to hit on. I do want to hit on Dare Ogunbowale. The reason I want to do that is because, like I said, he's a player that has looked good in the preseason. I know he's not playing against number one defenses because they really haven't used him with the ones all that much, but when he's gotten his opportunity, he's playing well. He seems to be able to block pretty well when you watch him. He stands back there and he's not scared to throw his body at a defender, which is a big deal, especially because Jones has not shown any compensity to be able to do that. He's just not a guy that I feel like is. I just don't like Jones's game, and I think they're looking for
Jones is bad.
Yeah, he's just not good, and I just feel like they're looking for any excuse for any kind of spark in any player to give them a chance, and I think they're going to give Ogunbowale a chance. So definitely a player that I am very interested in, and you guys should be too. And then. That's basically it for the news. Let's get to
Mr. Andrew.
Yes, Mr. Andrew Luck. So the other piece of news we obviously did not mention because we knew we were going to break it down was Andrew Luck retired from football. We said it yesterday on the podcast that we were going to talk about it today, and this is where we're going to talk about it. So we are not going to get into whether we think that Andrew Luck was right in doing what he did or if he was wrong in doing what he did. We are a fantasy football podcast, and he is a man who made a decision, and I am not a man that's going to talk badly about another man's decision, with his own life. So I give him all the respect in the world. I love Andrew Luck as a player, and I thank him for the 7 years plus, because in Stanford he was awesome to watch. But I thank him for his play, and that's basically all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I did a little blog this morning. I posted it, and the first part of it touches on Andrew Luck, the fantasy player, and then the second part touches on Andrew Luck, the person, and basically said the same thing. Like I'm literally not judging him for what he did. I know a lot of people out there are very sour, and they feel like he was wrong in what he did, but doing it 2 weeks prior to the season. But I'm not judging him on that. He's a grown man. He knows what his body can and can't handle. He knows what he wants to do with the rest of his life. And best of luck in your next endeavors. And it's literally what I said, Steve. Like I said, thank you for the football that we got to enjoy from you. It's a shame we're not going to get to enjoy more of it, because the guy was, when he's on top of his game, he is exciting to watch. He's competitive. He's the reason he's the reason we watch football. You watch some of these guys that just, they're in it for the money, they're in it for the fame, they're in it for, just they're just out there to get a paycheck, and they have moments of greatness. They have moments of, but this guy's out there, he's competing every single drive, every single play. He wanted to win. You could just tell by everything, the way his teammates loved him. T.Y. actually said, a little something nice about him, called him his brother today. So it's just sad to see him go, but the show must go on.
Exactly. Next man up. It is what it is. So We're going to get into the players on, obviously, this team that will be mainly affected. If you go on the website, probably tomorrow, I'm going to have a full, complete breakdown of, all the relevant players that you are worried about on the Colts, and I'm going to break down, their numbers, the year that Brissett was in there. You also got to remember Chuck Pagano was the coach back then and not Frank Wright. Just a whole bunch of things that I'm going to throw at you. I'm going to be throwing numbers at you. I'm going to be throwing, tape that I've watched on Brissett and, how I've seen him progress as a quarterback from, 17 to 19. Just a whole lot of information that, you can read up on the website and really get a feel for, all these Colts players. So we'll just do a quick breakdown of each guys, how we feel, and then you guys can go read the article to get more information. But so let's start with T.Y. Hilton. Dan. T.Y. Hilton is a guy that I feel like is probably dropping the most, and it's because he was the highest guy being drafted other than Andrew Luck. So, I feel like he's dropped into like the fifth, I think mid-fifth now is his ADP. If you look at that, how do you feel? How do you feel, Dan, after, the Andrew Luck news?
I think it's accurate. You're going from a guy who he had incredible chemistry with, and he was a home run hitter for them, and now you're going to a guy who's been the second fiddle for the last couple of years. So it's accurate. He's got to build a new chemistry with it, but he's a good receiver. I mean, and he's obviously still the number one, and they got to. I think Frank Reich will do. I think the best thing about still keeping T.Y. Hilton as a top receiver is because of Frank Reich. Frank Reich being a former quarterback for the Bills and knowing offenses, and he obviously for the Eagles he took Foles to the Super Bowl and MVP, so he knows much like Andy Reid, he knows how to mold quarterbacks. He knows how to. He doesn't basically. He's not a Chip Kelly where he says it's my offense. Players must adapt to my offense. He's good at adapting to a player's strengths. So he'll figure out what Brissett's strengths are. He already knows T.Y.'s strengths from, being there for the last 2 years. So I think we'll see a drop in T.Y. You can't really say that T.Y. is going to go out there and light the world on fire without Andrew Luck. I mean, it's, I don't think it's comparable, but I still think T.Y. is going to have a good year, but I think the ADP drop. I mean, obviously it's a drop fast because of the initial shock, but I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, I think it's still getting him in the fifth round is good value.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like the drop in 2017. When Brissett basically took the job because of Andrew Luck's shoulder. We all have to keep in mind. So, it says it in the article. He basically was signed September 2nd, right? And football starts after Labor Day. So if you sign on September 2nd, I believe the season started last year. September 9th was their first game. So my man got signed 7 days before the start of the regular season. He didn't play the first game. Scott Tolzien was the quarterback who started the first game, and he was just terrible. And then Brissett came in. I believe it was like halftime, and they basically just let him go after that. And he basically was the quarterback the rest of the season. T.Y. had 109 targets, 57 catches, 966 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The 4 touchdowns really what killed him, because 966 yards from your wide receiver you'd be happy with. 57 catches is a little low, but T.Y. has always been like a 70 catch guy, so he's never been like the super high volume catch guy. He's not going to catch 100 passes even with Andrew Luck playing with him. So I do think the catches might go down a little bit. The yards are probably going to go down a little bit, and the touchdowns will go down a little bit, but I still think he's going to be a top 24 guy. I'm not really too scared of him not being a top 24. I still think he'll finish in that range, 20 to 24, somewhere in there. And if Brissett has progressed in a way that we see on the field that is, very evident, he could be a top 20 guy, 15 to 20 guy, because we all know how talented Ty is. So I'm not too worried about him. I do think that I like the way he's dropping, but he definitely does have his share of making me a little bit nervous, but it's a confident nervous. So Marlon Mack is the next guy we'll talk about. Marlon Mack, I think some people will fall into the school of no Andrew Luck means Marlon Mack's going to get a whole lot of touches, but if you look at teams that have lost their starting quarterback, they do tend to run the ball more, but it's not a more effective running game because you need the quarterback to be moving the ball and doing all those things. So I don't see a spike in Marlon Mack's production, but I also don't see a crazy fall in his production either. I kind of still have him where I had him the whole time, 18, 19 at running back. I still think he's an RB2. I'm not going to drop him, because of Andrew Luck not being there, and I'm also not going to, jump him up, into the top 15 or anything like that. I feel like the offensive line there is very good. We watched them last year. They were top 3 offensive line in football, and I just feel like he's going to be a productive guy. I'm not scared of him. If you get him in your draft, I feel like he's basically going to be the same as he was with Andrew Luck. I don't see a big drop. I don't see a big, production spike. So, I like Mac the same way I did before.
Yeah, I at first I kind of I was more on the optimistic side of saying, feeling that Mac was going to get a little more work, which he actually may, basically like you touched on, he may get more work without Andrew Luck. They may need to run the ball more. But then the more I evaluated, the more I thought it's along the same level as you. Was that, he may have an increase to me in touches and yards, but he may have a decrease in touchdowns because Brissett's not going to be putting him in the same position of scoring as Andrew Luck was. So, if anything, I would move him a couple players down, but I would pretty much be just like you, Steve. I would have him same spot, RB2. I think he's going to still finish in the top 24. I didn't have him finishing in the top 10 to begin with. I still think he'll be in that, 12 to 24 range. I don't think, I just like Frank Reich as a coach. So I still think, he's going to have this team competitive. They do have some talent around, some talent all over the place. They got a couple of really good tight ends. They got, receivers. Campbell's, he's seems to be healthy again. So yeah, same thing as you, Steve. Pretty much keep him right where he's at. Maybe drop him a couple, but if I'm drafting and he's available for me at the same spot that he was before Andrew Luck retired, I'm probably still taking him there.
Yep, I agree. So the next guys we'll get in. Nice segue, Dan. We will get right into the tight ends. So Jack Doyle, Eric Ebron. I was never high on Ebron all season long. I've been telling you guys that I don't like Ebron, and now I like him even less. I feel like he doesn't have the same rapport with Brissett that Jack Doyle does. In 2007, when Jack Doyle was the main tight end for the Indianapolis Colts, Brissett targeted him 23% of the total team targets, which is a big number for a tight end. That is a big number for a tight end. So Jack Doyle and Brissett already have a rapport. So I feel that Jack Doyle would be the safer pick. I'm not sure how much I want either one of these guys without Andrew Luck, but I do definitely know that of the two, I want Jack Doyle. And Ebron, to me, is almost, touchdown bust tight end. And those tight ends are your tight end 15, 16, 17, the guys that you're picking up off the waiver wire with a good matchup, hoping that they score a touchdown. And that's kind of the way I felt about, Ebron the whole time. So the tight ends don't really move that much for me. Jack Doyle might move out of my top 12 into tight end 13, but he's not dropping out. He's not somebody that I would be super scared of drafting.
I actually think I actually liked Jack Doyle a lot without Andrew Luck. I actually think he creeps up even a few. I mean, I was higher on him than Ebron after we evaluated both of them and saw the production that Doyle had over Ebron when, with both of these quarterbacks, regardless of quarterback Doyle has way more production over Ebron when they're on the field together. He's just a better tight end. He's just flat out a better tight end. Ebron had a monster touchdown year last year when Doyle was out, but he's just a much better tight end. So I think that will benefit Brissett a lot. I think out of all the guys early on, he's going to build a chemistry with Doyle fastest. Like you said, he already had, a little chemistry before, but I like Doyle. I think Doyle's going to have a really good year. Slightly better than he may have had when Andrew Luck was there, because Andrew Luck, I think, was going to spread the field a little more than Brissett. But I think Brissett, I like really good tight ends and mediocre quarterbacks because I feel like they're a really good, security safety blanket for them.
Definitely. All right, so the only other thing I really want to talk about with the Colts, because it's really the only other relevant position, because, all the rookies and all that, I think they all drop. They all, most people are not going to even be drafting Paris Campbell and, the other receivers there. I just feel like, Devin Funchess is dropping. They're all dropping. So, those guys are probably not being drafted in most leagues now with Brissett at quarterback. So we're not going to get into those guys, but the defense was very good last year. They improved. They were one of the better. They were definitely, probably, I would say, if not the most improved defense of last season, definitely a top 3 most improved defense. I'm not saying they're a top 3 defense. I'm saying they're a top 3 improved defense from what they were in 2017. So for me, I like the Colts defense still. I think that Brissett will be able to move the ball, so they're not going to be on the field, an insane amount. They'll be on the field more than they would, obviously, with Andrew Luck. But I do think that they are a very good defense, and I'm not scared to draft them if, you want to take a late defense in the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to touch on the defense too much. I don't really think Luck retiring is too much impactful on where they move up or down. So basically where, I had them kind of middle of the pack, a little higher, the middle before, and I'll keep them right there.
Definitely. All right, guys. So we are done with the Andrew Luck and the Colts. We are going to go to this week's preseason games. We're going to talk a little bit about the preseason games, things that we liked. There really wasn't that much in the preseason this week that I saw that I really wanted to hit on here. There's 3 things that I will hit on. A lot of people saw the box score of the Browns Tampa Bay game and saw that Baker Mayfield completed like 3 for 13 passes or something ridiculous. It was really bad. It was terrible. If you looked at the box score, but if you watched the game, he actually, there was a lot of balls that were batted at the line of scrimmage. There were balls that, wide receivers just flat out dropped. He did have a couple of passes there that just didn't look good, but, for me, it was more drops and, batted balls at the line of scrimmage more than, him just being terrible. So if you looked at the box score and you were like, oh man, this dude, I don't know. If that scared you, that box score, then I think you need to watch the tape of that game because it wasn't as bad as the numbers would suggest.
Yeah, I will. I'll touch on a guy that I've been preaching about pretty consistently over the last couple months, and James Washington. He caught a 41-yard touchdown. It was his only catch. He didn't see a whole lot of time out there with Ben, and came out there a little later, and he ran a nice route and he made a play on the ball. And it was nice to see. When you're talking about guys that are, with the huge upside, obviously everybody was talking about Moncrief is the number 2 and Washington is, the clear-cut number 3. But, I think that I think Washington with his ability is going to have a good year. So it was good seeing him catch a touchdown. But who you got as your second game?
Yeah, my second game was the Cardinals-Vikings game. There's a couple things I want to hit on in this game because there was a couple of big highlight plays and, the talk about Kyler. So in this game, Kyler Murray went for, I believe it was, 14? I think he completed 14. Let me pull this up. 14 passes for 21 attempts for 137 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had four rushes for 9 yards. He was getting out of the pocket well. He was moving around back there well. He was evading tacklers. All the stuff that you saw in Kyler Murray in college, you saw in this game. Kyler Murray, the numbers are a little deceiving. He had a 2/3 completion percentage, but watching him, in this game, you could tell the offense is just so vanilla. They're not trying to show anything, and I think that affected his numbers in this game. His numbers still look good, 14 of 21, but the offense they're running is not the offense that he's used to running, so I felt like some of the pass patterns and stuff is not pass patterns he's, used to looking at. So I think that affected his game a little bit in this one. He didn't look really, really good. He didn't look bad. He just looked okay. Some of the young receivers looked really good. Keyshawn Johnson had a fantastic game. There was Demir Bird had a really good game. I think he had like a 33-yard catch to start off the game. Really pretty pass by Kyler. And, Larry Fitzgerald went in there, caught one pass, and basically they pulled him out. Christian Kirk had a touchdown in the corner of the end zone that was called back on a holding call. That was a really beautiful pass right on the corner of the end zone. Kirk caught it, got his feet down, but, the holding call negated it. So I liked what I saw out of Kyler. And on the other side of the ball, Dalvin Cook just, boy. So I'm not going to get...
He's got wheels.
Dude, he is so fast, bro.
He's got wheels.
So fast. But I'm not going to get crazy excited about that play. I know people are going to amp you up about that play. What we have to remember here is the Cardinals defense may be the worst run defense in football this year. They are going to be terrible. It is just, there's no question in my mind this rush defense is going to be bad. This is 2 games in a row that, they had their starters in, and the offensive starters on the other team, looked awesome. Raiders last week and the Vikings this week. So, Alexander Madison looked good in this game, and he hasn't looked really good at all, this preseason. He was getting some, nice run with, when the ones were out there. But, I'm not going to get crazy excited, but that play just showed you how fast Cooks is, and he can crack a big one.
Yeah, I'll touch on a couple things, but first I'll just talk about the Arizona game, and I really stayed pretty even keel with Kyler through the first 3 preseason games, because it is exactly that. It's preseason. When Kev was talking about they were trash after preseason game 1, it kind of reminded me of the segment that ESPN does, Overreaction Monday, and it's he's like, well, their offensive line is so bad, you can't draft, Johnson Hyde. Kyler's not going to be the guy that everyone thought. It's like, you got to cut the guy a little slack. He's literally just learning this offense. He's learning the NFL, and Fitzgerald actually said that he came out last week and said that Murray knows the offense better than anybody on that team. So, that was encouraging to hear if you're a Kyler Murray fan. But I think that offense will be fine. I think Kyler Murray will be fine. I think Kyler Murray will be great someday. So I just wanted to touch on that, and it was good to see that he's slowly making progress. And like you said, I said from week 1, they're not going to, if this Kingsbury offense is revolutionary is what they're talking about, he's not going to pull out all the tricks in the preseason. He's gonna wait to show that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was actually a couple things, but the Tennessee Titans. They're talking about. This is not really fantasy related, but they're talking about Tannehill taking Mariota's job, because Tannehill looks incredible in the preseason, and Mariota looked awful in that last game. Mariota looked good in the first preseason game, but Tannehill looked better, and then Mariota looked bad in week 2, and he looked. He was out there for 3 or 4 drives and threw 3 passes and went over 3. It was about as rough of a performance as I've seen even in preseason. And Tannehill once again for 3 weeks in a row. Well, Tannehill didn't look as good in week 3, but he looked better than he looked way better than Mariota. He's looked a lot better than Mariota last this preseason.
I agree. Ryan Tannehill had a nice pass to Corey Davis down, the middle of the field for 25 yards.
Corey Davis.
So, honestly, I gotta say it. If I'm the Tennessee Titans, I am giving Mariota the shortest leash in the history of football. I literally am giving him game 1. And if he doesn't show me that they're going to win that game or they have a possibility of winning that game because of him, I'm pulling him and I'm putting Tannehill in. Tannehill just looks like the better passer. He looks more confident in the pocket than Mariota. He looks like a guy that should be the starter. I mean, like that's what I'm seeing in the preseason, and I loved Mariota coming out of college.
Me too.
I did. I loved him in Oregon. I thought he was going to be.
Fan.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be
fan.
great. I really did, and the one thing I think is good, like I feel that's good about my fantasy analysis is I don't have take lock. Like I have learned in all the years of doing this, trying to figure out, best players and doing this and doing that. When you have take lock about any player, it puts a shield over your eyes to things that you need to be seeing. And if you watch Mariota, he looks broken. He looks not confident. He looks like he sees shadows. He's running out of the pocket when there's nobody near him. I just don't like what I'm seeing out of Mariota, and I think Ryan Tannehill looks much better. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is any kind of excellent quarterback at all, but for this offense, I definitely think he's going to be better. And I do think he's going to take that job.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Go ahead. Go to your last game, and then I'll hit you with my last game.
All right, so my last game, it was kind of a toss-up between a couple of the preseason games, but a lot of starters didn't play. But the last game that I wanted to hit on was the Jaguars-Dolphins, and that's really only because of Nick Foles and what's his name, Dede Westbrook.
Dede?
Yeah, what Dede Westbrook did. Nick Foles, he targeted Dede 7 times. Dede caught 4 of those for, I believe it was like 30-some yards and a touchdown. I'm pulling up the numbers now. Yes, he had 4 catches for 29 yards and a touchdown. It was targeted 7 times by Nick Foles. Nick Foles only threw 10 passes. So, for me, just seeing that, DJ Shark wasn't out there. So, you don't get the whole picture. And, Marquise Lee was also not out there. They didn't have every one of their pieces, but I liked the way that offense moved. I thought Leonard Fournette, his numbers still look 3.9 rushing yards, but he looked like that he's going to be very involved. He had 2 catches for 19 yards. The first catch was like a 3-yard catch, and then the next catch was like a 16-yard catch. He looked good catching the ball of the backfield. So I do have hopes for this offense. I think Dede is definitely the receiver I want in this offense, and the Dolphins just look terrible.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot you can talk about the Dolphins, but Dede was he was definitely highly targeted, and he should have called more balls, but their timing was off on a couple of those crossing routes, which they'll definitely clear up. Nick Foles is a very accurate quarterback. He's a very timing quarterback, so if they can get on the same page, they should have a very good chemistry this year. It was nice seeing them, work so much together in the early going, and I'll just keep on pounding the talk about Fournette until the cows come home, because he's going to be a beast this year. The last game I'll talk about, or player I should say, someone that I wasn't really high on, because I didn't, there's not a lot. He's being drafted so high, and there's not a lot of background on him other than the offense he's in, and that's Damian Williams. And when he caught that little 15-yard out route and just one cut up field and just burners to the end zone, I was like, all right, this guy's he's legit. I mean, I think you just have to be, moderately to above averagely talented to be in an offense like that, and you're going to get a ton of work and you're going to have a lot of success, because Mahomes he's an unbelievable quarterback, and with the receiving court they got around him, and he's just that play right there, just it moved him up like 4 notches on my book, as long as he can stay healthy, because I know that his injuries have been a problem as well. But that was a fun play to watch, and this Kansas City offense is going to be scary.
Yeah, I don't really have too much to add to that. I agree. Damian Williams really hasn't moved up or down in my ranks. I still think he's a great a great RB2, and could still possibly finish in the top 12. I definitely believe that, and that's basically what I believe the entire preseason. I told you guys the other day that Darwin Thompson is not somebody I'm scared of. I don't think he's the direct backup. I think Darrell Williams is to the run game. I think Thompson will be used in the pass game if Williams goes down, but unless Williams goes down, neither one of those guys is going to be super relevant. So, I haven't changed my mind.
Thompson really only had a couple good plays, and other than that, he really hasn't been that. Like, I think people saw, week one that he made a splash, and everybody just built him up so much. So he's been rising on the ADPs, but other than that, I think it's being overdriven a little bit for me. I mean, I know for you too. I know Kev's a little higher on Thompson, I think, than we are, but yeah, I'm with you. I think Williams number 2 is going to be number 2.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So let's see here. We are going to do our next segment since we are done with the preseason, and our next segment is a one that you guys know, Chutes and Ladders. So what we're going to do on Chutes and Ladders is we basically give you guys that are rising and falling in ADP, and then we tell you what we think about those guys. So some of these guys you have heard us talk about, and we are going to hit on them again because either they are rising 2-3 rounds, or they are falling 2-3 rounds, either direction. So I will read off my 2 guys that are going up for my list, and my 2 guys that are moving up the ranks are Miles Sanders and Dede Westbrook. Dede Westbrook we just hit on, super highly targeted by Nick Foles the other day, and I think that people saw that performance and they want every piece of Dede Westbrook they can get, especially in PPR leagues. He is moving up the boards. He has moved up the boards, I believe, 2.5 rounds in the past week, which is a big jump. He was in mid-round 8. Now he is being drafted in, basically end of round 5, beginning of round 6. So that's a big jump. So I'm not going to hit too much more into him. Miles Sanders, I have been beating the drum for this guy since forever. Since basically he got drafted. I am not an Eagles fan, and when he got drafted to the Eagles, you should have seen how happy I was. I was literally watching the draft, and when the Eagles took him, I threw my arms up in complete happiness. I was just like, yes! Like, you would have thought that he went to the Bills because I love this kid's talent, and I really wanted him to go to a team with a good offensive line, and I am like super happy that he went to the Eagles because they have the number 1 offensive line in fantasy football, period. And I just really liked where his landing spot. So I think Miles Sanders was the best back in this draft. I've been saying that for months, and I love his game. And I do think he's going to be a 16 to 18 touch back in this backfield. And I love him. I love this kid. I think he's going to be very, very good this year. And I said it the other day, and I put my stamp on it. If I'm wrong, it is what it is. I will admit it 100%. But I think he could be a fantasy football league winner.
Yeah, no, he's too talented. I mean, there's nothing that there's no reports. There's no one that has watched this guy that has said anything but how talented he is. He's just. He didn't get the acknowledgement coming out of college because he had the, I guess good that his body didn't take the abuse. Yeah, he basically had the unfortunate thing of being behind
a generational talent. That's literally what happened.
This Saquon Barkley. So we didn't get to see, except all for 1 year. That 1 year he showed off pretty good, but we didn't get to see what this kid's made of. But we will. I know we talked. I spoke of JJ. Arcega-Whiteside last podcast and said he's going to be a huge talent in this league, and so will Miles Sanders. So keep 2 of those. And I'm not saying this as a homer. I'm saying this as with my own eyes. I've watched every Eagles play in preseason. I was at training camp on the field watching it, and these guys are legit. They may not make splashes too big right away because they are rookies and they're playing in an offense that won a Super Bowl 2 years ago and has done nothing but added more talent to the offense. I mean, it's going to be tough for JJ have a huge year when you have the Ertz and Alshon and Deshaun Jackson and Nelson Aguilar's in front of you. So it's going to be a matter of time. But both of these guys are going to be stars. So I love Miles. It's just scoop him up in many drafts as you can, because at some point during this year, Jordan Howard's he's just not. I'm not going to say he's not good, because he is a good running back. He's just not. I don't think he can take the workload like Miles Sanders can. Basically, once Miles shows that he can handle that 16 to 18 carries, it will be his to lose.
I definitely agree. I love him. So my two guys that I have sliding down the boards is Zach Ertz, which is surprising to me, and Tariq Cohen. Zach Ertz was being drafted early to mid-round 2. He is going in the late 3rd round now, and I really don't get it. So I completely understand the logic that, he had the most, he broke the record for, catches by a tight end, and he had, the biggest, yards. Him and Kelsey were fighting back and forth for, not him and Kelsey, him and, what's his name?
Kittle.
Yeah, all three of them. Kittle. All three of them were fighting for the yardage.
Yeah, huge yards.
And, I get all that. I 100% get it. So, my thing is, let's put a number on it. Let's say he drops 20% of his production that he did last year, right? Looking at his production last year, I'm pulling it up. If he has a 20% drop in his total production,
95 catches.
Yeah. So I really don't think that is a crazy amount of lost catches. So Zach Ertz last year had 156 targets. He had 116 catches, right? So 116 receptions. If he drops off, let's say even 30, right? 80 catches. That is a fantastic season for a tight end, right? Like if you're especially in a PPR league, if your tight end catches you 80 balls, you're going to be happy as hell. You're going to be like really happy. His 80 catches for Ertz could be 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. Guess what? That's still a tight end 1. And I don't think his numbers are going to drop off that much. I do think he's going to be like a 90 catch guy. You know what I mean? I think he's going to be, 9 to 1,000 yards. I still think he's going to get to that area. I think, last year he scored touchdown-wise? He had 8 touchdowns. I don't think it's crazy to think that he gets 10, especially when you think of all the weapons that the Eagles have now. Like, if they use their big boy package and they bring in J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and they bring in Alshon Jeffrey and they bring in Goddard and they bring in Ertz all at the same time, who the hell do you defend? Like, what one of those guys do you say, I have to double team this guy? You can't. There's no one you can double team because they're all just so big. You have to just single cover these guys. And if you double, then one of them is getting open. Period.
And Ertz is the best route runner out of all 4 of them guys, so he's going to be the guy that probably gets open.
Exactly.
Especially when you have to put you have to sneak your safety up on him or slide your linebacker up on him. No safety and linebacker in the NFL can cover Zach Ertz.
Exactly. So for me, the nonsense that I'm hearing that, regression is coming. Yes, but you have to be logical. You have to think about it. Regression. Okay, so Patrick Mahomes, it's the same thing. If Patrick Mahomes regresses, everyone is saying it. He's going to regress. He's going to regress. He's going to regress, right? He's still being drafted the number 1 quarterback because his regression is still going to be more than even his regression points. If he scores 35 touchdowns, he's going to be a top flight quarterback, period. And it's the same thing with Zach Ertz. You have to use that same mentality when you're talking about these tight ends. He is still going to be a top 3 tight end. He has the possibility of being the number 1. Kelsey, I believe, by far is the best tight end in fantasy football. Kelsey could outscore him. You know what I mean? It is a possibility. I don't think it's likely, but it's a possibility. And for everyone to say, regression, and not really think about what the regression could be, I think is silly. So I will just say that, and I think people are being a little crazy when it comes to the regression of Zach Ertz. Tariq Cohen is the other guy. Tariq Cohen, another guy. He's just I don't see what everybody else sees. I understand, the hype on David Montgomery. I get it. He looks really good in the preseason. But I don't think he's going to eat into Tyreek Cohen's workload, because Tyreek Cohen, to me, is the best pass-catching back in football. If you watched football last year and you saw how dynamic this dude was on the field, he was incredible in the open field. If he got into the open field with corners trying to hunt him down, he would just juke a little bit, hit the outside, and just be gone. He was awesome last year. You know what I mean? And I think people forget that. The dude caught 71 catches for 725 yards. That's 10 yards per catch. Like, that's over 10 yards per catch. That's insane.
I think those numbers I think he might be in that 70 catch range again, but I think he gets in that 800 or 900 yard range, because he's an absolute weapon with the ball in his hands.
Dude, he's so dynamic. He's just so dynamic. And if you believe, most people believe that Trubisky is going to be better this year. If you think Trubisky is going to be better this year, then you have to believe that Tariq Owen could be better this year. You know what I mean? Like, he is just a really, really, really talented running back, you know, with the ball in space. And Matt Nagy is not an idiot, and he runs the same offense as Andy Reid. And if you guys know anything about the Andy Reid offense, Andy Reid is 100% the best screen coach maybe in the history of football.
Yeah, I was going to say ever.
Yeah,
look back to the Brian Westbrook days when they used to set Brian Westbrook up, and they would pinch their set. I mean, he's the one that almost started, pulling the center all the way out as a lead blocker.
Exactly.
And they do the same thing in Chicago. They do the same thing in Kansas City, and you have to have an agility offensive line, but it works when you know how to do it right. It works.
It works beautifully, and Andy Reid's offense all are able to do it. And Matt Nagy is an Andy Reid disciple, and I don't understand why Tariq Cohen is falling the way he's falling. He is going to be used in this offense. He's awesome.
All right, so I'll start with my two guys that are on the rise. We'll start with Tyler Lockett. They coming into this year, they with the year he had. Can he hold up to be the number one? With Doug Baldwin retiring. Doug Baldwin didn't really have a stellar year last year, but with Doug Baldwin, he obviously had the rapport with Russell Wilson. But could Tyler Lockett be the number one? And I think they came out, a couple of days ago, and they said he is without a doubt the number one. He's embracing it and he's ready for the role. And so far in preseason, he's looked dynamic. I'm really excited to see what he does, and he's still going for, he's climbing up the ranks. Actually, he's climbing up big time over the last week, but he's definitely a guy that I like. How do you feel about where he's being drafted at, Steve? I think he's actually in like the 5th round now.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. If Tyler Lockett moved up into the beginning of the 4th round, I would take him. Like, I am trying to get Tyler Lockett everywhere. I love Tyler Lockett this season. I just, so in one of the listener leagues, we had a listener that, let's just say he vehemently disagrees with my take on Tyler Lockett. For me, it's very simple. Tyler Lockett is moving into the slot. The slot role that was manned by Doug Baldwin for so many years with Russell Wilson. And Tyler Lockett is just going to be ridiculous. To this year, it would not surprise me if he saw 130, 140 targets. He is by far the best wide receiver on this team. Russell Wilson, I believe, is going to have to throw the ball more, because I don't believe this defense is any good. I think it's a bad defense. I think they're going to be, in the mid-20s in total defense given up, total yards given up. And if that's the case, Russell Wilson's going to have to throw the ball. And guess what? The best receiver on that team is Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett would not surprise me if he saw 130, 140 targets. And if he sees that many targets, I'm letting you know he is going to be a top 12 guy. And I will say it right now, I think he finishes in the top 10. I really do. Last year in PPR, he was the number 16 wide receiver. This year, in standard leagues, he was the number 11. So a 6 or 7, man jump is not something ridiculous or crazy. And I know he scored a lot of touchdowns, but Russell Wilson throughout his career has always been a high, touchdown guy to pass ratio. He's just awesome. Russell Wilson scores touchdowns, period. You know what I mean? And if Russell Wilson has more throws, he's going. And that's why I told you guys, I don't get take lock. I watch the tape, I see what I see, and then I tell you guys. You know what I mean? I was a month ago, I was telling you, don't draft Russell Wilson, stay away from him. Now I'm telling you, draft Russell Wilson.
I wasn't. I've been on the Russell Wilson train this whole time, so I'll just stay right here in my corner smiling. But I will say this about Lockett, that if you remember back when Baldwin and Wilson started to develop the rapport together, well, Baldwin was a route runner. He was, I mean, over the last few years, prior to his retirement, but Baldwin has become a huge play receiver. He is he's got tons of plays over, 30, 40, 50 yards, touchdowns too, because I think he's started to see how gifted Russell Wilson is outside the pocket. I've been saying this, I've been beating the drum on this, that I don't think there's any quarterback, maybe Rodgers, and too early to tell about Mahomes, but with his arm, who knows? But I've been saying that, on the run, Russell Wilson is as good as they come as far as, outside the pocket, making plays happen and just throwing beautiful balls outside the pocket. So, I think Doug Baldwin started to see that. He started to develop his game a little more than just being a route runner. And then he started to become the, the big play receiver. Tyler Lockett don't got to develop that game. Tyler Lockett already is the big play receiver. So exactly. You put the combination of what Russell Wilson can do out, extending plays with his arm strength, his accuracy, and Tyler Lockett's just ability to find gaps in the defense and take advantage of them. That's why the more I look at this combination, I don't think last year was an aberration. I think that we're going to see another nice year from Tyler Lockett.
Definitely.
I'll touch on my second guy. I'm going to. It's a combination we've talked about a lot, and we're going to continue to talk about it until one of these two guys takes a clear-cut head of the other. But Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. Curtis Samuel seems to look like the better receiver. All three of us said a month and a half ago when we did our team breakdowns, who do we like more? We all said that we not only like Samuel more because he was being drafted a couple rounds later, for the value, but just as an all-around receiver, we thought he had much more potential, much more upside. And, just watching the tape on these two, I think they're both good receivers. I'm not downplaying Moore. I just don't like the spot that, Moore's being drafted at. I think, and everything that Carolina says is both of these guys are going to be stars. I think they'll both be good receivers, but I think that, I think Curtis Samuel will be a very, very good receiver.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I necessarily agree that Curtis has more upside. I do like Curtis a lot. DJ Moore is just amazing with the ball in his hands. So I do think DJ has a little bit more upside, but Curtis he showed it last year. He's definitely the better route runner. It's not even a question who the better route runner is. I think if you asked DJ, if you pulled him aside and you were like, yo, bro, who's the better route runner? He would tell you. Curtis Samuel is 100% the better route runner. And I think he's definitely developing that game. Okay, so to me, Tre'Davious White is one of the best corners in all of football. I think he's a top 3 corner. I love the kid. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, so I'm a little bit biased. But, ask anybody who knows football and knows cornerbacks, they'll tell you Tre'Davious White is definitely one of the best in the game, period. And Tre'Davious White came out and said, this Curtis Samuel dude, he runs routes, boy. Like, he can run routes. And when you have a top 3 cornerback, in my mind, in football say that about a wide receiver, this guy is super talented. So I love Curtis Samuels. DJ Moore, just because of his big play upside, I think has more upside because he can score 80-yard touchdowns in a blink of an eye. He is very good with the ball in his hands, and I think Cam knows that, and Cam's going to make it a point to get the ball in his hands as much as possible. But Curtis Samuel is going to be the guy that Cam relies on in the red zone, especially with Olsen getting older and all that stuff. I could definitely see Curtis Samuel scoring, 6 to 9 touchdowns and being very, very, very productive this year.
All right, so I guess now we will move on to the shoots part of the program, the guys that I'm down on. I'm going to start with Royce Freeman. Spoke pretty highly about him, thinking that, it could be more of a 55-45, split between him and Philip Lindsay, because I wasn't huge on Philip Lindsay, and I liked Royce Freeman coming out. Another guy I liked coming out of Oregon, and go figure. Maybe I just, like watching Oregon guys in that offense. But another guy I liked watching at Oregon and coming out, and his rookie year he looked awesome, electric, and he seems to be dropping. And I don't know if he even played this last week. I didn't see him out there. So, and 2 weeks ago we put up a 5 rush for 0 yard stat line. I mean, that's just
Terrible.
I mean, even in preseason, I know, you might not be trying to give it your all, but you got to be able to. I mean, that's like Reggie Bush numbers when he went like 7 carries for -2 yards a few years back in the season. But that's bad. So I don't know how you feel about Royce Freeman right now.
Yeah, I was very low on Royce Freeman last year. I remember a couple of people asking me about him, and I was telling people don't draft him because he's going in the 3rd round, and I just don't see that. And I was high on him this year because he was going in round 10, and I loved that area that he was going in because I thought, he's going to get, like Dan said, 45% of the work, maybe even 40% of the work, and I would still be cool with that. I would be cool with that workload and him being the goal line guy. But to me, there's a clear line between Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman after watching that preseason game the other day. Like Dan said, 5 carries, 0 yards. Like, that if you are fighting for a job, right? If you are fighting to try to be the main back on a team, you can't go 5 for 0. I don't give a damn what game it is. I don't care if it's the preseason. I don't care if it's, I don't care if it's a scrimmage. I don't care what it is. You have to put what you put on tape 100% goes against you in the NFL. And you just put a 5 for 0 game. He shows almost no ability to find holes. He just kind of plows into the back of his linemen. And, people are like, oh, well, he had a 50-yard run in week 1 of the preseason. If you saw the hole that my man had to run through in that preseason game, it was literally 4 linemen wide. Like, in the NFL, you don't get 4 linemen wide holes. Like, that doesn't happen. So anybody could run for 50 yards when you have a hole the size of a mini coupe. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. So, I even said it when he did that. I didn't think that it was impressive. That didn't really impress me that he ran for 50 yards on a hole that was bigger than, Big Mama. It was huge.
By the way, Steve, his stat line for that game was 3 for 49. So his other 2 runs, he was -1 yards. So besides that gigantic hole, he literally was doing the same thing he did in preseason game 2, which was just running into the back of his own lineman. Like, I don't know if he feels threatened that Lindsey's getting a lot of the attention, and he was the guy last year, and he's just lost his confidence. I mean, he's a talented back, but I mean, these guys, all of them, receivers and running backs, they could be head cases, and they get in their own heads and they just forget how to play. And I think this could be one of those cases where he is just, for me, I'm staying away from him. I'm maybe he he comes into his own at some point during the season and he starts to get into that 40-45% workload like we were talking about a few weeks ago. But as of right now, I think you're going to see a massive amount of Phillip Lindsay, which my brother will be happy with because he has him in our keeper league. So he was debating, he was hearing us out and saying, do you guys think that Royce Freeman's going to really take that much? And then they obviously signed Theo Riddick too. And, did they end up dropping Theo Riddick?
No, he hurt his shoulder
right.
in practice.
Yeah. So he was worried about that. And now, he's probably after I'll tell him to listen to this podcast, he'll probably be smiling saying, a little more encouraged, but all right. So last guy on the list is Kenyon Drake. And it's just, I liked him, but I don't think I can draft any Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry. I just, yeah. I mean, is this going to be the worst team in the NFL this year?
I think it is. I really do. So like I told you guys, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I like watching film, and this offensive line, It's the worst in football.
You're at a loss for words. So
yeah, it is so bad. So Ryan Fitzpatrick actually had a pretty good game the other day, considering how bad the line was. Like, he is going to be, honestly, I know people are saying, just throw Rosen in there. And I think this coaching staff knows that this offensive line is really, really bad. And they do not want to put Rosen out there and make his confidence any less than it has already been dropped. My man was a top 10 pick last year, traded for a second round pick. And, the team that traded him took a quarterback number 1. Like, his confidence is probably on thin ice to begin with. If you throw my man behind this offensive line, he might just lose all confidence in his game, period, and just be terrible. So to me, this is not a question of whether, who's better, Fitzpatrick or Rosen. It is we're not going to crush this guy's hopes and dreams by putting him behind this offensive line right away. We want to see if we can fix this offensive line in the season, get them playing better, and then maybe throw them in. That's kind of the way I feel about it, because this offensive line is really, really bad. The reason Kalen Ballage you can't, to me, he's almost undraftable, because he has trouble finding holes to begin with, and this offensive line doesn't make them. So if you put a running back behind a line that does behind a team that doesn't make holes, that can't find holes, good luck. You know what I mean? Like, they need Kenyon Drake to come back. And even when he comes back, he's probably not somebody I'm drafting, because I 100% agree with what Dan just said. I don't think I want anybody in this offense. I just, dart throws on Albert, and I really can't think of anybody else that I would even dart throw on this team. Mike Gesicki, if like you're in a super deep league, but other than that, like, Albert Wilson and Mike Gesicki might be the only 2 dart throws on this team that I would even dream of taking, because Drake is going in like round 5 now, and I wouldn't take him there. I just think this team is really, really bad.
Yeah, I mean, in our early mocks, and even like I think in 1 or 2 of our listener leagues, I grabbed him up, but even going in round 4, I'm like, he's going to be a workhorse of a back. It's great value round 4. Gonna be awesome value for Kenyon Drake. And the more I'm looking at him, like, he might be a workhorse of a back, but that could be like 250 carries for 850 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, he might get a workload, but it might not be a productive workload, because his team's going to be bad. And I hate to break it to you, but you're going to see Josh Rosen out there, and I think you're going to see him out there probably week 3, week 4. I think they're going to. I think they're going to. You're going to see both of them, back and forth. I think it's going to be one of those years. I just have a feeling it's going to be like, all right, give this week to Fitzpatrick. All right, he sucked. Put Rosen out there. All right, pull Rosen in half. Put Fitzpatrick back out there. Like, I think it's going to be a mess. I mean, I hope not. I liked Rosen coming out of college. Whenever see, I could care less about Fitzpatrick. He's old, and he's had his 50 minutes of fame last year in Tampa Bay. But I'd like to see Rosen develop into a good quarterback. But yeah, can you believe Kalen Ballage is still going like at a super high ADP? Like,
yeah, really high. I think I saw him yesterday. Yeah, I think he's going like early 8th, end of the 7th.
Has anybody watched this guy run? Is anybody watching? Like, how is his ADP not moving? Has anybody watched this guy run?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's really paying attention. They just think he's going to take the job and he's going to be amazing, and he's going to be amazing behind a line that is just really, really, really bad. And like I said, I mean, when you have trouble finding holes and the offensive line is not making them,
for me, it's just buyer beware on that team. So I can see,
and this is the other thing you
see
guys
why Drake is falling.
This is the other thing you guys got to remember. They played Buffalo twice. They played the New England Patriots twice. They played the Jets twice. All 3 of those teams have really good defensive lines. Like, I don't know if you guys realize that this offensive line is so bad, and these teams are just going to six games in division. They're going to be playing top defensive lines that are just going to eat them alive. So, keep that in mind when you decide you want to go super high on Kalen Ballage. At least Drake has some elusiveness and ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and the ability to, make guys miss. Balaj has none of those things.
No,
He
I'd
doesn't catch
rather
the ball.
I'd rather have Drake in the 5th round than Balaj in the 12th round. I mean, to be honest with you, so
That's what
at
I'm
least you
saying.
got a hope. You got a glimmer of hope with Drake. I mean, I have drafted him in the 4th. I mean, I do see the upside. It's just the more I evaluate, the more I'm just kind of like I'm backing off of the Miami Dolphins play. And unless they show something and people are dropping players and they somehow, somebody like Balaj gets dropped and gets that starting role and miraculously learns how to become a running back.
Exactly.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, and Balaj is not a terrible pass catcher out of the backfield. He's just not good. He's not. I would not say he's a good one. So, do what you want to do, guys.
I think it's a wrap.
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up, guys. We were gonna talk about a couple of more guys on Kev's list, but we will do that on a later date. So for us here at Fourth and Inches, FF.com, and the Fourth and Inches Fantasy Football Podcast, we say good night to y'all.
All right, guys. Until next time.
Peace.